When talking about context, we leave the sphere of commercials and go straight into the physical experience of buying, being it online or face-to-face. What follows are a series of examples of how marketeers use the power of context to bend perception and influence our choices. Physical context. In our physical context, marketeers are assaulting our senses, all 5 of them. Once we enter a shop, we're at their mercy. It's like playing a home game for them. They are at the advantage, and some of them will go great lengths and spare no efforts to influence us. With webshops, it's only the visual part that plays, but it's still a home game for them. Let's start with our nose, smell. Of course, we all know that the smell of bread fresh out of the oven is irresistible. And yes, supermarket will extensively use that. So we start to feel hungry and buy more. Bakers will make sure the smell gets out the door, so we're drawn in as by an invisible force. But that is all kind of fair game, as it's a natural smell, right? Think again. They use synthetic aromas. This one is called RV184 to artificially recreate that smell. And not only fresh bread. What about books? When adding CJ5 to paste paper, just opening the book and flipping the pages will spread that smell. And what about cars? When you get into a new car, do you really think that's a natural smell? C30 it's called, and it recreates the smell of leather. Hey, it even works on fabric. The car doesn't even have to have leather. And it goes further. Did you know recent experiments showed participants remembered brands better when they were associated to scents? More and more companies are looking to develop a signature odor, some kind of olfactive brand. Ever heard about aroma marketing or scent marketing? Oh yes, it exists. Some companies do only that. Disney uses fragrances in its properties. Sony uses it in their stores. McDonald's, Holiday Inn, Procter & Gamble, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, and the list goes on and on. Hey, they even put it in our food. If you ever see these ingredients, heliotropin and citral, they are artificial ingredients added solely to help the product smell better, which affects the way that it tastes. Now, many of these smell enhancers are not considered to be dangerous, to be fair. However, they do cause many to eat more and make unhealthy dietary choices, tricking us into buying junk, basically. Our taste. Closely related to smell is taste. How are we manipulated by taste? Well, ever gone to the supermarket and been offered something to taste? This is like Pavlov's dog stuff. It works like an appetizer and gets our gastric juices flowing. Our stomach gets the impression a meal is coming, so it prepares itself. While you are doing your weekly supermarket shopping, your stomach is growling and pushing you to make impulse decisions. Or ever been to a bar, ordered something to drink and got some peanuts or chips with that? Yeah, they don't give that to be nice. You see, in a bar you're supposed to drink. Bartenders don't make a living out of people sitting for ages behind a drink. So they give you a salty snack that will make you more thirsty, thus drink your glass faster, and hopefully trick you into ordering a new drink. Our ears, sounds. We all know how the jingles and the slogans from ads will stay with us and sometimes get stuck in our head. But it's not only about that. Music played in supermarket stores or waiting room have been studied. Not only the type of music, but also how loud it's being played. 50 decibels, or almost silence, is perfect for concentration. 65 decibels is perfect for stores or for doing boring repetitive actions. But again, it goes further than that. Did you know that we will be more willing to trust and believe a low tone of voice than a high-pitched one? The reason is simple. The low pitch signals the maturity of the animal. It's a strong signal and indication of dominance. So you better shut up and listen. Now listen to the off voice used in commercials or movie trailers. Okay, one last thing. Did you know car manufacturers have been studying the sound that a closing door should produce to be labeled and associated to a quality car? The car can be junk, but the door should make the right sound. Our touch. Touch is powerful, way more powerful than we usually think. Between people, touching one's arm or shoulder, even briefly, reduces aggression. Waiters who briefly touch their customers on the shoulder or arms get tips more often, and these are bigger. And it doesn't only work with waiters. Studies have shown that salespeople in general have better sales when they touch their potential customer. But again, touch goes further than that. When we touch or hold an object, a product, it strongly increases our likelihood of buying it. That's why salespeople encourage us to try things on, to hold things, to take that car for a test drive. For a moment we become the owner, and giving it back hurts. Psychologists explain this by loss aversion, and is linked to our survival instinct of avoiding starvation. If you have ever been to a souk in a North African country, you will have experienced how the shop owners literally shove things into your hands. They've known this for ages. When we touch, we're more likely to buy. But there is a more far-reaching consequence to this also. You see, loss aversion seems also to be triggered when touching the image of a product on our smartphone. Recent studies showed that we're willing to pay 1.5 up to 1.8 times more for a product when shopping with our smartphone, as opposed to our desktop, where no touching is involved. Our eyes. And of course, yes, our sight. Our sight is an overwhelming sense. It dominates the others and is the one we're most conscious about. Still, it's so overwhelming that there's too much information coming in at once. We can only focus on parts of it. The rest, however, will have been noticed by our subconsciousness, and there is plenty of room for manipulation. Like, for example, light. People buy less on rainy days when there isn't enough light. So some shops have installed twilight switches to automatically adapt their light level to a slightly euphoriant level, depending on the weather. Now let's go to a bar. Ever noticed the shapes of glasses? Ever noticed how glasses are often designed to be larger on top than on the bottom? There's a reason for that. Visually, it's much harder to know how much is left in the glass. For example, where is halfway? So we start drinking and realize it's not going down fast, so we take bigger sips. Once we think we're halfway, we don't realize there's much less left. We continue drinking at the same pace, and before we know, the glass is empty. It's a visual trick to get people to drink faster, thus ordering faster as well. And what about colors? We all make associations. Blue for trust, green for nature, health and ecology. And red? Red is excitement, red is danger, red is sex, red is dominance. Any logo with a strong dominance of red is enticing. Marketeers know this all too well. But see how marketeers use colors to influence us. The best example is McDonald's. Strong, flashy red color. Kids love it. But what's happening in recent years? McDonald's got way too much bad press about being unhealthy and stuff. The kids still wanted to go to McDonald's for their Happy Meal. What's in a word, right? Happy Meal. But the parents didn't buy it anymore. Literally. So at least in Europe, what did they do? They changed the colors of their logo from flashy red to natural healthy green. And suddenly it was all about how healthy and green their products are. They shifted their communication from enticing the kids, the flashy red stuff and the clown, to the health consciousness of the parents, the healthy green stuff. Back to the eyes. What sells? Beauty. We've already covered that, right? Perfect models with a small nose, big eyes, large foreheads, luscious lips, mid-smile. Now let's go to the product. Not the product itself, but its packaging. The packaging really works like a relay for the commercials. The packaging becomes a vehicle to remind consumers of the association of emotions and to trigger the related dopamine rush we discussed in the previous chapter. Like a subconscious magnet, we're drawn to the colors and shapes that subconsciously remind us of whatever association has been created in our brain. Now the social context. Our natural urge to find allies and bond with them has, of course, also been exploited. With the whole rise of social media, which are an embodiment of this natural urge, it has become increasingly easy for brands to create a community. They offer us to become part of a tribe, to give us an identity. Of course, they don't really care about that. The real purpose is that we identify ourselves with the product, define ourselves by it, and use more of it all the time. With each invitation to join a newsletter, a Facebook group, become a member of an exclusive self-invented club, like for example the Frequent Flyers, they play into our subconscious social call for finding allies and team up to face possible adversity. Some brands even designed advertisement campaigns around it. One variation on this is to position the brand against something else to make it stand out. Great example of this is the legendary 1984 commercial of Macintosh.
We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
To compare the brand to another is another way to obtain that.
Guess that Galaxy S3 didn't work out.
No, I love the GS3. It's extremely awesome. I'm just saving a spot in line for someone.
That's not cool. Yeah, man.
This year, we're finally getting everything that we didn't get last year.
Yeah.
The big screen.
True 4G.
Yep.
What is that?
Hey, what'd you just do?
Oh, I just sent him a playlist.
By touching phones?
Yep. Simple as that.
It's the Galaxy S3.
Hey!
Hey, Mom, Dad.
Oh, thanks for holding our spot.
Next big thing is already here, the Samsung Galaxy S3.
Physiological context. Overall, realize we often end up buying to alleviate stress. The dopamine and endorphins associated to the act of buying, of acquiring something new, make us feel better. So the whole shopping experience is aimed at that, at making us feel better. If a shop, whatever it sells, generates stress, it might trigger the fleeing reaction, and they obviously don't want that. On the contrary, we need to stay in as long as possible. Looking at stuff, touching the merchandise, making us project ourselves already using it, whatever it is. That's why shops and even entire malls are designed to create a total immersion experience, comparable to a light hypnotic state. There's the music, the light, the clean and shiny interiors, probably some nice perfume in the air. The longer we stay, the more probable we'll open our wallet. Ever been to IKEA? Now that's what I call a total immersion. At the entrance we can leave the kids and pick them up later, so no distraction. So if we're hungry, they got their Swedish stuff, and really cheap too. But you don't want to know what's in it, right? Anyway, so entering the shop, we can't even freely choose to go straight to the area we're interested in, like in a supermarket. Nope, we have to follow the pathway and go through their whole set of beds and kitchens and sleeping rooms. Yes, there are shortcuts, but still, during this tour we're continuously shown small handy stuff we didn't even know existed, but hey, it could be handy. And before we even realize it, we need to grab one of their bags to carry all the unnecessary but stylish stuff we didn't even know we wanted 1 hour earlier. In IKEA, if you've never bought more than what you initially intended for, you deserve a medal. So to summarize, there are 3 types of context. Physical context, or the actual things we can touch, the products and their packaging. Social context, the people we're influenced by, our peer group, but also the salesperson attending us. And physiological context, how we feel inside, stress, fatigue, hunger, etc.